With the advent of the recent Mega Metagross Day introducing the fast move Shadow Claw to Metagross's moveset, I've wondered, should you spend an Elite Fast TM on a Dynamax Metagross to get Shadow Claw? In today's second opinion, I'll seek to answer that question as well as several similar quandaries related to Dynamax Pokemon, and what value these Elite Fast TM moves bring to the table. Before we begin, my name is Antarcticuno, otherwise known as the Dynamax Doctor, and if you're interested in more videos dissecting the strategies, mechanics, and science behind Dynamax battles, consider subscribing down below. Let's talk first about why one might consider using an Elite Fast TM on your Dynamax Pokemon. Currently, Dynamax Pokemon are largely ineligible for receiving legacy moves. We have yet to receive a Dynamax release that is eligible for a legacy move like Charizard's Dragon Breath or Gengar's Lick Attack. However, some of these moves have significant importance to the Dynamax format. As we've discussed in prior videos, fast attacks with the shortest cooldowns outperform slower fast attacks, allowing you to reach Dynamax phases more quickly, which in turn can mean the difference from success and failure, especially when trying to take a boss down with fewer players. Thus, for today's criteria, we'll be examining mostly Dynamax Pokemon who have legacy fast attacks with a 0.5 second cooldown, with a few exceptions of course. Other legacy fast attacks are mostly irrelevant for consideration. We are, after all, talking about using an extremely premium item valued at about $10 per instance. Many players will not have access to these items outside of special circumstances or from grinding hard in the PvP arena, and thus should be treated as precious material. We'll begin with Metagross, the latest Pokemon on this list to receive a legacy fast attack in the form of Shadow Claw. This Ghost-type attack is thankfully a 0.5 second move, but since it was only available to Metagross obtained from the Mega Metagross Raid Day, getting a Dynamax Metagross will require using an Elite Fast TM. This comes hot off the heels of a change that Metagross already received this year in Fury Cutter, which is another 0.5 second fast attack, albeit Bug-type. All Metagross currently have access to Fury Cutter through normal Fast TM means. So the verdict? Not worth it. Fury Cutter is oftentimes just as good as Shadow Claw, if not better, due to the lack of competition with other attackers. Shadow Claw generates pitiful amounts of energy too, so if you ever need to launch charged attacks, Metagross will be slower on the draw to do so if you choose Shadow Claw. Consider as well that even Dynamax Haunter would be outdamaging Metagross with its Max Phantasm. The argument that Metagross would be a solid ghost attacker with Shadow Claw is just not as sound of an argument as it would initially appear. Not worth it for $10 if you ask me. Next up, let's talk about Omastar and its elite fast move, Rock Throw. As one of the only Pokemon in the format with access to a rock fast move at all, it seems like we should at least consider the potential here. We'll compare with Omastar's free fast attack, Water Gun, which is a bit of a lopsided comparison if you consider that these don't cool down at the same speed. But we'll have to make do, since there are no available rock moves that recharge in 0.5 seconds. So what should we do with Omastar? This one is a tie. It will really depend on what you need out of Omastar. If you need to have a rock attacker, Omastar is currently the only option that can deal respectable damage with max Rockfall. If you don't need rock coverage specifically, Water Gun more than suffices. Great use cases for Omastar include Dynamax Articuno, Dynamax Moltres, and Gmax Butterfree. Outside of those use cases though, Water Gun will usually be better, especially since it recharges in half a second compared to Rock Throw's 1 second cooldown. How about Zapdos? It has access to Charge Beam for free and Thundershock through Elite TM. With Zapdos' Thundershock being in some ways a strictly better attack than Charge Beam, the course is clear for what to do if you have an Elite TM to spare. Use it on Zapdos. Thundershock takes half the time to charge over Charge Beam, and outdamages Charge Beam as well. Both result in the same energy being generated too. And with no difference in type between Thundershock and Charge Beam, this is a no-brainer upgrade for Zapdos. Let's begin our Gmax segment with Kingler and its Gigantamax form. With Gmax Pokemon, remember that the max attacking type is locked to whatever that species' signature move is. So in the case of Kingler, it will always use the Water Max move, Gmax Foam Burst. In the case of Dynamax Kingler, though, its attacking type will vary with its fast attack. For this, I wanted to compare Metal Claw and Mudshot, the former being freely available and the latter being accessible via Elite TM. What we can see here is that Mudshot is only marginally better than Metal Claw. It generates ever so slightly more energy per hit, which isn't nothing, but also isn't enough in isolation to justify using an Elite TM just for one more energy per hit. Mudshot, as a ground-type move, does have better neutral to super effective coverage against boss Pokemon, so statistically, you are more likely to get super effective or at least neutral hits off on the boss Pokemon. But will it even make a difference? Say you get super effective damage on a boss. This applies a 1.6 times multiplier to the move's damage, resulting in Mudshot dealing about 6 damage per hit, which is the same as a neutral hit from Metal Claw anyway. Compound this with the fact that you don't get more charge for your max meter unless you're chipping away significant percentage points of the boss Pokemon's thousands of hit points, and what we're left with is the regret of spending so much for almost no return. Charizard is up next. Let's break down how to proceed with Charizard based on whether it is Gmax or Dmax. In the case of Gmax Charizard, its max attack will always be Fire type due to Gmax Wildfire being its signature move. So in this case, Dragon Breath edges out Fire Spin because it is faster and avoids any competition with Dragon type attackers. Keep in mind that Charizard is still technically outclassed, even in its Gmax form, by Gmax Cinderace and its Max Fireball. So foundationally, the premise of choosing Charizard already indicates some prioritization of form over function anyway. For Dynamax Charizard, we can see the opposite verdict. You'll almost always prefer to use Fire Spin or the less common option, Air Slash. This is because if Dynamax Charizard changes its fast attack from Fire, it starts to compete with the likes of Moltres and Unpheasant if it's using Max Airstream, or Latios and Eternatus if it's using Max Wormwind. It is simply not worth it to spend a valuable resource on a Dynamax Charizard that will still find itself underperforming. Last but not least, let's examine a case study with Gengar. Gengar, similar to Charizard, has some interesting distinctions between its Dynamax form and its Gigantamax form, and how you probably ought to proceed. For its Gigantamax form, which can only use the Ghost Max move Gmax Terror, there's almost no difference between Sucker Punch and Lick, with the latter requiring you to spend a pretty penny. The lack of same-type attack bonus on Sucker Punch is nearly non-existent when you consider that it results in maybe an additional damage being dealt to the boss per hit. As discussed with the other use cases, this will assuredly not result in the max meter filling any more quickly. For its Dynamax form, Lick seems a bit more appealing, with it being a Sucker Punch clone that keeps Max Phantasm as your max move. However, again, when we consider what the real differences are between Shadow Claw and Lick, even the energy generation doesn't seem to be significantly different between the two. Thus, I'd recommend skipping Lick entirely on your Dynamax and Gigantamax Gengars, at least from a max battle performance perspective. So what do you think? Overall, it seems like most Dynamax Pokemon aren't really worth it to Elite Fast TM, as most Pokemon already have fine tools at their disposal. Did I miss a Pokemon you were thinking about using an Elite TM on? Drop me a comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe while you're at it. Till next time.